Hey guys, thanks for checking out another HatchetCast episode. Today we're going to be covering the PSA, or Palmetto State Armory Sabre 10 20-inch 308. Now this is also called the M110 clone by those on the internet, but we're going to go over this. I'll talk about the specs, some of the upgrades that I've done to the gun, my general experience. We'll also talk about the groupings of different types of ammo that I put through this. This has over 500 rounds on it now, and I'll kind of give you guys my, my take on what I thought about this. And that also, we will go into some cool, like, nerdy type stuff about, you know, ammo and loads and stuff like that with Ed, who's actually running the camera right now. Ed, you're not a nerd, I promise. But we go into it with him, and then after that we'll do some barricade work where I give some tips and tricks on using a QD attachment on your bipod and how it can actually work out really well when you're running on a barricade, if you're ever shooting a match or things of that nature. And then I'll finish up with an encouraging word from James chapter 4. So before we get started, make sure you hit the like and the subscribe button. It really helps me out. As you guys know, it's an organic way to be able to help out the channel. And also share this video with a friend. Maybe they're thinking about getting a Palmetto State Sabre. Based off of this video and my experiences, I actually would recommend it. But if you also have a Palmetto State, let me know what you're running. What do you like? What do you dislike? Let me know down in the comment section. Someone's probably going to be looking at the comment section and they're like, hey, that's some great feedback points and things I didn't think of. So help each other out there in the community. All right, guys, so quick product spotlight. Obviously running a sub gun with Griffin Armament, but what I want to talk about is one of the sponsored products, Wetworks, has the sub gun placard. So you actually look, it sandwiches in between the two pieces of Velcro on the cummerbund and the plate carrier itself. Really, really good. I can use MP5 mags. I can use Strybog mags, Glock mags. These are the Colt magazines for the Griffin. All different types of subgun mans. Even the what is it? A Kuna. The Kuna can also run the those mags. They're a little bit thicker, and also CZ Scorpion. So if you're looking for a low-profile subgun type placard, this is a really good option. Very, very simple, and that's what's really nice about Wetworks is all their stuff is extremely simple, which makes it really comfortable. So if you're curious about this or you run a subgun and you're looking for a placard, go check out Wetworks. Also check out their plate carrier, super slim, very low profile, and if you want a discount on that, go check the description in this video below to be able to save some money. Special thanks to Wetworks for sponsoring this video. So we'll start off at the very front and I'll work my way back, and we'll talk about the very first thing on this, which is the suppressor. Now, Griffin Armament did send me the suppressor. Palmetto State also did send me this rifle for review, and they did send some AAC match grade ammo to run through it. But for the suppressor, this is the PSR 7. Now, you guys have heard me talk about the PSR 5, which is the 5.56 over the barrel suppressor. It uses a dual lock system. Love Griffin Armament stuff. They have an incredible QC. They make really good suppressors, really good rifles, and you guys have heard me talk about them ad nauseum. But the PSR 7 does have an EcoFlow system, so it's a traditional style baffle system with vents at the very front to bleed off some of that gas. And underneath the PSR 7 is the muzzle brake. Now, this muzzle brake is the Paladin brake. They do have a flash hider version as well. You saw that on the SCAR video. I was running the flash hider version. But if you look at this, the suppressor goes over the barrel, so you get a longer suppressor, but it shortens up some of that length because a lot of the barrel is going to be inside the suppressor. So really, really, really nice. Now, traditionally what comes with the Palmetto State muzzle device is a flash hider, or they call it their compensator. It's the Sabre compensator. It's got 3 prongs. One of them is longer, so that way it doesn't turn into a tuning fork. If you've shot some 3 or 4 prong flash hiders, they usually have like a E, you know, E minor. I don't know. I don't sing, but it has a tone to it. So they have one portion of it that's longer. I removed it just because I had, already wanted to put a PSR 7 on this because I've actually been wanting to do this project for a very long time. Now, as far as the muzzle device or the threads, it is a 5/8 by 24, so you can run whatever type of 30 cal threads that you want on there. And looking at what the muzzle device is on is the barrel. The barrel is a 1-in-10 twist. It is a 20-inch barrel, and it is a 4150 CRMOV steel with a Cerakote finish. The barrel is actually plenty accurate. The one thing I did notice about the barrel is it is fluted and has a heavier profile to it, so that way it doesn't heat up as fast. The fluting helps bleed off some of that heat as well. Now on the barrel is the adjustable gas block, and I want to talk about the adjustable gas block some concerns that I have in general about direct impingement adjustable gas blocks, but this one specifically has Picatinny on the top. Don't recommend any mounting of anything on this, and also has Picatinny on the bottom. It has a very cool look to it, the very M110 clone-y type of look, but has the adjustability as well. For adjustable gas block on this specifically, it has 2 positions, so suppressed and unsuppressed. It also has a flathead slot, so you can use a flathead if it gets stuck. I actually had to use a flathead over time because it starts to freeze up. Now, in the beginning, I could do it with my hands, but you get a flathead on there, and I can break that carbon free. So kind of going into adjustable gas blocks with direct impingement, and it's not just Palmetto State, it's any type of direct impingement adjustable gas blocks. You're going to have to consider these things. It's not a bad thing, it's just something you got to consider. If you're not considering it and you're not checking on it, then it does become a point of failure. But all gas blocks eventually and gas ports will erode. They fill up with carbon. So that's just a natural life that you're going to have with a gas block in general when it comes to this type of system. But for adjustable gas blocks, I've seen multiple types of failures. One, if you have the Allen key style where you adjust it with an Allen key, I've seen those come loose and shoot out, and then the entire gun is inoperable. Usually with students in class that have had those. I actually did a short on one with a guy who shoots with us in an open gym. The good thing about this is that it's not an Allen key, so it's only got 2 positions, so it kind of takes some of the thinking out of it. However, with these is if you're not constantly maintaining them, they do get carbon locked into place to the point where they can't even be adjusted anymore. So you have to constantly unlock it and adjust it. For me, during the entire testing period, I was kind of breaking that carbon off, but understand eventually it will get locked into whatever position that it's in because of it not being a piston system, right? Now the gas system on this is a rifle length gas system and allows for a lot softer felt recoil. It makes sense. If you're running a 20-inch, traditionally the M110 had a rifle length gas, but if you're running a longer barrel, you want to have the appropriate gas system. So it's a really soft gas system and it works great. Now, as far as the gas port size, it's a .750. You can feel it when you shoot the gun. It's a very soft shooting system. Now, on the over the barrel is the handguard, and it's a quad rail handguard. Now, this is made by Palmetto State. It is a 12.5-inch quad rail. Really love these features on the quad rail, that they have QD attachment points for the sling. You guys have heard me rant and rave about it's 2025. Like, if you're not building integrated QDs on your rails, or you're not flaring your mag wells, like, come on. These are things that we should be doing. It's the future. We should already have hoverboards by now, but at least we got QD points on the rail system. So you got QD points here and also closer towards the receiver, which is really nice. I'm a huge fan of meat grater, the cheese grater, meat grater. What is a meat grater? But the cheese grater type system. I have it on my GPR. I love quad rails, and it obviously has a very cool looking aesthetic. Now, when you do get the quad rail, it does come with their rail covers. So they're great rail covers. There's nothing wrong with them. They're actually like more rubbery, and they stay very well in place. I wanted more of the Knights Armament aesthetic, so I put some Knights Armament rail covers on there. They kind of slide. They don't really lock into place very well, so I had to kind of wrap it to kind of keep them in position. On the bottom of the rail, obviously, we have the bipod. Now, what's great about Palmetto State is that they send you a Magpul bipod. It is one that you have to screw on. It doesn't QD or quick detach, but like, dude, that's a $100 bipod. So like, really cool bargain that you get a bipod with the gun. The other thing you do get with these guns is you do get a Savior rifle bag, and it's a nice bag. So you get a Savior bag, you get 3 magazines that are from Duramag, you get a bipod. Like, they do give a lot of features whenever you buy this thing. This is the billet version. They do have 2 different types. Obviously, they got 6.5 Creedmoor chamberings for this, but they have a billet and then they have a forged. I do have the billet version, but typically it's going to run you $14.99 to $12.99, and they're always running summer deals. So if you get it on a deal, that's awesome. But kind of going back to this, so I swapped out the Magpul bipod for the Harris bipod. I love the Harris bipod, and when I talk about the little exercise at the very end, when I'm talking about QDs and how to use them, you'll see why I like the Harris bipod. But on this, I have the American Manufacturing Defense American Defense Manufacturing QD. It has a lever here. I can manipulate that with one hand and remove it if I need to, put it into a pouch, put it into a bag, what have you, but it's not stuck on the gun. I like to have options. Harris bipod, traditional Harris bipod, nothing fancy there, but yeah. So working my way back here on the top for the glass, I am running the NX8 2.5 to 20. Now I did an entire video on the Night Force optic here. Go check it out. This is one of my most favorite optics in general. Like, it is just an incredible optic. It does have their bridge here so you can mount lasers, and it is their cantilever mount that I have this optic in. Really good optic. It has the Mil XT reticle. If you want to get into a Mil XT reticle at a lower cost, I also did a video on the Night Force SHV, which is their entry-level optic, so you get the same reticle for a lower price. Night Force, nobody's even, you know, contesting if they make good glass. Night Force has high quality, as we all know, but this is an incredible optic, and I wanted to run it on this gun specifically. Inside of the internals of this gun, you have a bolt carrier group that is the Sabre AR-10 bolt carrier group, and it has Sprinko gas rings. If you guys know anything about internals for your buffer springs and stuff like that, and your gas rings, Sprinko is really nice. Like, it's a very well-known brand and very reliable. So, you know, Palmetto State, the fact that they're putting in Sprinko springs and they're putting in all these different features, it shows that they're in tune and listening to the end user. They're listening to the shooters. That is you and me. You know, I see it in the gun industry all the time, where you see a product that comes to market and you're like, nobody asked for that because it wasn't made by a shooter, and so they're producing something because they're in an echo chamber. Well, Palmetto State's not doing that, and you can see it by what they're providing to the market. They're providing upgrades that people like. They're providing systems that people like. And that's one of the great things about Palmetto, is an affordable price rate. So anyways, inside of this, the bolt steel is the 9310. It does have a hard chrome finish for the bolt carrier. Also, what's really cool about this, talking about upgrades, they have a radian charging handle. Like, that's usually the first thing that you upgrade is the charging handle, and Radian, as we all know, has a really good ambidextrous charging handle, so they went ahead and just stuck that upgrade in the gun. As far as the safety selector, it's also a Radian safety selector, full ambi. The other great thing that they did that's ambi on the Sabre 10 is the fact that it has a bolt release. Now, this is not an ambi bolt catch and release, it's just an ambi bolt release, so you can't lock the bolt to the rear by pushing this. You lock it traditionally with your standard bolt catch, but if I want to, I can release the bolt by pushing that lever. So really nice feature that they have on that. Most companies are not doing that. They're just pushing out a high cost item with nothing that's really ambi besides the safety and the charging handle. So kind of lame on that. As far as the trigger, this is what I kind of did some research on this when I was watching other people's videos, like Admin and some other guys that had shot the M110 clone or the Sabre 10, and they all ranted and raved about the trigger. The trigger is really nice. As far as the trigger, I would say it's probably like 3.5 pounds maybe. A really clean break, a really clean reset. If you guys want, I can do the whole, like, you know, you can hear it and all this other stuff. But let's go ahead and do that just for the sake of being not original. All right, so I've got a cleared out gun. We'll hear it click. So I got a little bit of take up right here. It's a 2-stage. Whoa, it's that light. So I got a little bit of take up. Okay, let's hear what the reset's like. Very clean reset, very, you can notice it. It's very audible. You can feel it very easily. The trigger, they did a great job out of the box with it. I wouldn't even replace the trigger. I would honestly wish this trigger was available to run in other guns. Now, as far as the pins, they have these screw-on pins where it has like a little like anti-rotation thing, but without the bar. The one thing about these is you have to just make sure that you check them. Anything when it comes to quality control from any manufacturer, I don't care if it's super high quality guys or the lowest tier dudes, you got to make sure you QC your stuff and just tighten up and check all the bolts and screws and things that can fall apart on your own. So for example, I went ahead and just tightened the handguard up to 65 inch-pounds on my end, and then I witness mark literally everything. I witness mark my scopes, I witness mark any type of screw, and also had to witness mark the screws for the pins on the trigger. And the reason why it's good to do that is actually on one side it actually started to come loose. So constantly checking that stuff is important, so that way you don't lose a pin or lose a bolt or whatever. And it's just a good thing for you to do as an end user. Now, as far as the takedown pins on the upper and lower receiver, also aftermarket. They use the Battle Arms takedown pins. They have little dimples, so you can use a round to be able to push it to get it out, to get it started. But just a cool another feature about how Palmetto State is trying to cater to what the shooter wants. Now, as far as the grip, it does have a Palmetto State Sabre B5 style grip. It's their version of their own grip. It's a great grip. I like it. I just wanted the aesthetic of like an A2 style grip. So Griffin Armament has their own grips that's like an A1 style. So I went ahead and put a Griffin Armament pistol grip on there. As far as the buttstock, there's nothing fancy about it. It's an M16 style buttstock. It's a rifle length buffer system inside of that. And it does have a storage compartment inside the buttstock. For the storage compartment, the latch did kind of wear out on me, so I had to tape it closed. Not that big of a deal, so just keep an eye on that. Overall, the gun is a very soft shooting gun. The one thing I was looking for is reliability with the system, because AR-10s are notorious for beating themselves apart and having okay accuracy. So the first thing I was looking at was reliability. So far, over 500 rounds, nothing has gone wrong with the gun. It's ran flawlessly. It's extremely soft. Like, the gun shoots very, very soft. I've been running it primarily suppressed, and specifically because I want the gun to run a little bit harder on itself to see if anything's gonna fail. It's probably gonna fail when you're running suppressed. So the gun doesn't feel like it's beating itself to death. When it comes to AR-10s in general, just even like a SCAR or whatever, 308 is it's a older style round. It's a heavier bullet. It's a little bit more harsh. So you just got to make sure you're checking all your screws and parts and making sure nothing's coming apart. So I actually went and from True Shot sent out some to test with this, and also AAC sent out some of their different match grade. And so I go into a grouping portion with this gun, and so we'll go ahead and get into that grouping portion now. All right, shooting 147 grain. This is Swiss AA. This is from True Shot. Been doing 10 rounds of this. But the key is how many different types of can be accurized generally by this platform. I would rather have something that has a broad range of selection that it can group versus only 2 specific types of match grade and weight grains that it will group, but everything else it won't group at all. So obviously, if you can have more selection, that gives you a lot more options in terms of what type of ammo you can buy and run through your platform. So here we go. All right, so now we're running some 175 grain Norma. This is Golden Target Match. Brought some of this ammo out for us to try, so we'll see what this does, match grade. All right, so weight 168 AAC. Interesting. So target 18 was the AAC Sierra Match King. Now and that was 168 grains. Now we're going to be doing the 168 grain boat tail hollow point from AAC. So we'll do a different target for that one. Going on target. there we go. All right, now got the 175 grain OTM AAC we're about to run, so a heavier grain bullet, open tip match, their open tip match. So let's see what we get. 10 rounds as usual. Oh, malfunction. So we got a failure to feed. Not too bad, but could lose some lube. There you go. 10 rounds. All right, so now running the 175 grain from AAC using the Sierra Match King projectile. I just feel like it likes the heavier grain. Like the heavier grain seems to be pretty tight, but 175 grain, so we'll see how it goes. Hot. That one felt a little weak. Yeah, like that stuff. That's your team. All right, so now we're going heavier grain. We've got AAC's 178 grain boat tail hollow point match. AAC load 178 grain, so very a lot heavier grain weight. So we'll see how it goes. Another 10 rounds. By the way, this gun, it's so easy to keep in the scope. Like the recoil impulse, very nice, very has a really good feel to it. Like I can stay in the glass. I'm literally watching my impacts appear on the target, and I can stay glued in the glass, which is great for follow-up shots, but very, very nice. Unlike some other platforms that maybe the military has acquired that you can't do that with, because the recoil impulse is so bad and the accuracy is much worse as well. But here we go. So 10 rounds, 178 grain, boat tail hollow point match. All right, so here we go, running the Hornady. These are like the Hunter rounds, 165 grain CX outfitter rounds. So here we go. All right, so now shooting M110 LR, which is the military's match grade round that they run through their SR25s and their M118. So honestly, this is the M118 clone, and so it'd be kind of nice to see how well this does. So we'll see how it does. Here we go. So, like I said, from the very beginning, the big things that I was really wanting to see with the platform was reliability. How reliable would it be with the knowledge that AR-10s in general are just really harsh on themselves? And for my accuracy standard, I was looking at 2 MOA at the max, the extreme. I was talking to a friend of mine who's at sniper school, and he's like, dude, if it's under 2 MOA, it's combat effective. So that was a type of accuracy expectation that I had for it. And an X, I think, did a little bit better than what I had expected. This is, for me, I think of this more as a DMR type platform. So it would be in a squad, it could be used in a designated marksman role to be able to punch through some harder material, punch through some, cinder block or vehicles, things of that nature where you need a little bit more punch in the fight, and also would be a great platform to have at a support by fire position with a machine gunner team. True Shot was able to provide a lot of that ball ammo, so that way we can kind of run higher round counts on this, as well as some of the match. And AAC also supplied the 4 different types of match grade that they have in their inventory. That way we can actually put higher round count on this gun, which this gun is just over 500 rounds as it stands. So if there's anything that changes, or as I continue to shoot this and there's updates in terms of reliability, or it keeps doing really well, I will update you via social media as I typically do. So just kind of stay tuned on that. But I want Ed to talk about some of the challenges that we have and things to think about when it comes to precision and ammo types, kind of get into the weeds a little bit.
So I shot PRS for a little while. I wasn't particularly amazing. I shot it because it was enjoyable. You're out there with some of the best people, just in the shooting community in general. I mean, that's one of the reasons I think that a lot of people gravitate towards staying in the shooting community, is the people. But during that time, I was probably shooting PRS for about 5 years. And one of the things that made me realize was the combinations of accuracy. I mean, as AR shooters, particularly when we reference how accurate a rifle is, saying how accurate the rifle is really isn't, it's not specific enough. It's not the rifle. There's so many things that factor into the accuracy. When you load for PRS, for example, you're looking at consistency. So consistency in primers, brass, how soft the brass is, how you neck down the brass after each shooting. There's the projectiles, how your seating depth in that brass, the powder. When you go from shooting a kind of a stock rifle like this in a 308, and you're shooting 2 MOA with ball ammo, that's pretty amazing. But when you go to a bolt rifle that's consistent and it's not cycling because it's not gas, but I mean you have a consistent bolt lockup every single round, and so you're really slicing all of those aspects of shooting into very specific portions of that pie that makes up accuracy. As I mentioned, the powder. And so powder, for example, you're looking at different types of powder. How fast does it burn? And then what you're doing when you do a load workup for a specific round, you're looking for what are called nodes. So as you increase the amount of powder pressure in the brass, and again, brass affects this because of how much it expands in the chamber. So you're looking for nodes. When the increase in the speed of the projectile will plateau out, and it becomes more stable in that plateau of acceleration. So what you'll do is you'll have these little step ups in the speed with that, and you want to find an accuracy node, or a node rather, where the groups are also accurate, because you can have a good node where the powder is stable, you're getting consistent speeds, and those are where you're going to get lower extreme spreads, the kind of standard deviations that you're looking for. Some of those standard deviations would be down to 1 feet per second, 2 feet per second when you really get into the weeds with this stuff. So when you look at things with the powder, for example, you can have a good node where it's plateaued out, but not necessarily the accuracy you want. So there's all this cross section of information that you're looking at, and then
now, as far as if you're loading where do you see this type of platform and this gun specifically? You know, should someone be really considered, is you know, loading their own, or is that more for like bolt gun stuff where you're going to really see the performance squeezed out based off of the changes in the recipe that you make?
I think that the bolt gun is more consistent because that bolt lockup is the exact same every single time. Like I wouldn't load my own for 5.56 and not necessarily with a platform like this, especially since the quality and the production of ammunition has just drastically improved. I mean, you look at, so for example, one of the reasons that when I started shooting precision rifle, I had a Bolt 308. And it didn't matter how much I tried, how much I shot, or what kind of ammo it was, that particular rifle was about 1.5 MOA. And, you know, so I would practice a lot. I'd work on my trigger. I'd work on everything in the fundamentals. And I would sometimes get under an MOA, but then you do a 10-shot group and then all of a sudden you're humbled again. And then when I went from 308 to 6.5 Creedmoor, that round is just easier to load for. I don't want to say it's more accurate, but it has a wider range of chambers and barrel lengths and twist rates where it just behaves the way that you would want it to behave. Yeah. So my average group, you know, 1 MOA, 1.5 MOA would all of a sudden shrink down to a little over the width of a bullet. You know, and then when I went from 6.5 to, I shot a few different 6mm rounds. There's 6mm Creedmoor, there's 6x47 Lapua, there's a lot of 6 Dasher, you know, and then when you go to those, again, they're just easier to load for. So you go to, in some cases, you're looking at 5-round groups that are the size of a single bullet hole, and I don't think I became that much better of a shooter in between 308 and 6 Dasher, but it's just a different animal that you're dealing with as far as tolerances for, you know, the, oh, that was a bug. As far as what the gun likes. And so when you have a specific platform like this, there can be one thing that it likes really well. And if that's the case, you know, if it's not broken, don't fix it. But you have to be willing to accept that when you try different rounds, sometimes there's going to be things that you're going to shoot groups that just don't really look great. And it's not necessarily your problem or your fault as a shooter. Of course, your fundamentals should always be first and foremost, right? So how many times have we all shot a terrible group and wanted to blame our gun, or we're shooting low left, right? And oh, my sights are off, back to 0 and they're dead on. You know, that happens more than I would prefer. But having said that, 308, it's a shorter, fatter round, generally speaking, than something like a 6.5 Creedmoor, that 140 ELDM that Hornady came out with. Just started shooting, and it's less jump sensitive. So jump is when the projectile comes out of the brass, and it's that fraction of an inch between the projectile coming out of the brass and then entering the lands and grooves in the barrel. And depending on how that chamber is cut can either help stabilize that round, or it can throw a little bit of a wobble in that round. And that's going to be 308 rounds, in my experience, are just a little more jump sensitive, unless it's a chamber, like a matched chamber that's cut specifically for that round at that seating depth with the same powder with the right brass. I mean, there's a lot of combination, a lot of factors that go into that. I wanted to go back one thing about the 6.5 versus the 308. Yeah. It's so you hit the nail on the head. Like, what's your mission objective? You know, what's your goal? Is it to be combat effective, or is it to put, you know, stack small bullets in the same hole?
One shot, one kill.
Those two things aren't the same.
Right.
And if you, I know this just from hunting, shooting elk. You know, a 6.5 Creedmoor is a faster round. It's not as fat. It's a thinner diameter, and so it can get great penetration, but there's a saying, there's no replacement for displacement. And that smack of a 308 or a 30 caliber round, 300 Win Mag or 308 or whatever it is, it's just a fatter round, and you're getting more of a kinetic impact, more kinetic transfer, if I'm saying that correctly. But and so if you're truly in a battle situation where you want to put someone down or something down, maybe 308 is the right answer. You're being combat effective. You're 2 MOA, but you're getting it done. Versus a 6.5 and a bolt gun where you can't throw as many rounds down range as quickly as you might want to.
Yeah, and that you actually hit the nail on the head when you just said not as many rounds down range. Like, this has the ability to do accurate suppressing fire. You know what I'm saying? So like you can send those shots very, very quickly. And the one thing that I was looking for also in this gun was to see how scoped could I be, in terms of staying in the glass during the recoil impulse. Like, is it recoiling so much that I now lose my sight picture and I have to resettle in, get back in my natural point of aim to be able to get a secondary shot off? And it was like, no, I could actually stay glassed really, really easily. And that's one of the things I love about Mark 12s is 5.56. It's so soft. I mean, you can really just send them, in a very accurate manner. Whereas with a bolt gun, you can do it very quickly, but it takes some people who are very skilled at doing that to be able to send those rounds quickly. So they're relying more on that first shot, right? That one shot only to be able to produce the effect that they're looking for. Whereas with this, you have the benefit of, it might not be as accurate as a bolt gun, but you have the ability to be able to increase amount of fire, right?
Exactly.
So I thought that was really cool. And overall, I mean, I've been super pleased with the gun.
I don't know if it's appropriate to talk about, like, we were talking about earlier, I guess that I would say not to pay attention to what everybody says online.
Yeah.
It's like,
that is very relevant. That is.
It's like you could I would say there's a ratcheting castle nut. For example, there's trigger anti-rotation pins. There's things that you get hate for online because somebody somewhere with enough confidence to say something online and can get other people to repeat it. And granted, there might be those instances where one particular part can cause more wear over thousands of rounds and eventually cause a failure. But, I don't think necessarily that those are the types of pieces of advice that we should be focusing on. I think that we should be focusing on our own personal experiences. I think that we should get out, we should train, we should put our own weapons through the courses of fire that we do, and for our particular purposes, find what works for us, and put it to the test. I mean, I've had anything from Radians to LMTs to Palmetto States to LWRCs, arrows, I've built a lot of them, and I think that I'll leave out the ones that I don't think that were very good, but I'll say PSA wasn't one of those. The fitment between the set of receivers that I have, the PSA upper and lower, and the anecdotal experiences that I have with my friends that have PSAs, they don't have any issues with them. They're really good. They're really good guns. The
price point's great too.
The price point's great. Like we were talking about earlier, their mission is to arm and equip the American people, and there's quality control in everything. I've seen, as I'm sure many viewers have, failures in every level of equipment. QC, make sure if QC is an issue, make sure everything's in spec. Make sure that your rifles fit the purpose that you intend to use them. That goes obviously for your optics, your trigger, your gas length system. If you want a softer recoiling rifle versus one that's gassed to run everything, it's going to have more recoil. So if you're shooting rifles in a match, you're going to want less recoil. So you're going to maybe tune your specific gas system to a specific load. And it might not run other loads well. Is that the most reliable thing for the end of the world? Maybe not, but is that really what your goal is? Are we really building every single rifle for some imaginary end of the world scenario? I'd say if that's your goal, you maybe want to reconsider that and just get off the internet and train a little more in person, you know?
Yeah, and I also would say your gun doesn't have to be over-gassed to be ready for the end of the world. There's plenty of really well-gassed guns, this being a really well-gassed system, that will run perfectly fine and be reliable. So, like you said, you know, I think it's so important. Just go out and train. You know, don't take my word for it. Don't take Ed's word for it or anybody else on the internet. You know, hey, take it with a grain of salt and go out and get your own experience. But awesome. Well, I'm going to go ahead and we'll turn it back over to Eric or myself, and we'll talk about some tips on running a barricade. All right, guys, getting into the tips. All right, guys, so getting into the tips and tricks. I keep saying ticks and rips or whatever. Ticks and tips. This is where I want to really talk about not just shooting on the barricade, but also where the QD on the bipod, like I talked about earlier, really comes into play. So if I'm looking at something and I have a criteria where the stage I have to shoot from the prone and then I have to do 2 ports on the barricade, this is how I would kind of do that. Now there are people who shoot these matches that are much more knowledgeable and way better than I am on that stuff, but this is something that's worked out for me. So let's just say I have to shoot from the prone for my first shot. So I lay my bag down, I keep my bipod, I'll actually have it pre-deployed, so I actually have a small string here. If I was to deploy it, that when I pull one leg, it'll automatically open up the other leg. I'll take my bag and I'll throw it down and I'll get into a good prone position, getting directly behind the gun. So let's just go here. Once I get my shot. All right, going safe. Now, let's just say I have to go where my next position is on top of the barricade. I'm gonna just leave my bipod on, and then I'm going to go and lay my bag down. Now, if you see the bag, it has like this butt cheek look to it. It's got a V in the middle. Instead of having the bag where I lay the gun inside the crevice of this, I want to create as much surface area as humanly possible because I'm shooting on a pipe that has a really small amount of surface area. So I'm going to lay the bag down and actually put the crevice on the pipe and then have a huge amount of surface area that the gun can just rest on. And now look how much more stable the gun is. I'm holding it up with a couple of fingers, but for that next shot, I'm able to really just lock the gun into place. And here we go. All right. Go back on safe. Now, my next port is actually going to be this hole down here. This is where having a QD on your bipod is really, really nice. Not only for competition applications, but if you wanted to QD the bipod while you're walking patrol, you can put the bipod in your bag if you don't need it, especially if you're walking a long distance. So what I'll do is I will actually rock the gun back, let the bag just fall to the ground because I'm not going to even use that. And then for me, on the American Defense Manufacturing QD mount, I like to have it tight enough but loose enough where I can manipulate it one hand and I don't need a tool to pry it open. So I'll actually take that and let it drop off. Now I can get that gun through that small portion of the port. Now mind you, no matter what port I'm at or on any barricade, I'm not going to just rely on leaning on muscle mass, and actually Ed brought this up as a good reminder earlier, but I will kind of lean on my bone structure so that way I don't get fatigued and shake and have a harder time trying to do the fundamentals correctly. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna center myself up behind the gun. I open up my hips, and that's going to allow me to get lower behind the gun, and I wanna try to be as direct behind the glass as I can to eliminate that parallax. If I want to, I can get a little bit further in. However, I just wanna have a little bit more stability, and I use my support hand as like Spider-Man's web to be able to glue the gun to the barricade itself. So, one more shot. Able to get very repeatable shots. A lot of that's going to do with the gun, but a lot of it's really going to do with the fundamentals and how well you're able to stabilize that when you build your position. So hopefully you guys are able to get something out of that. Just a little bit of some tips. When I was thinking about this video, I was like, hey, how about I just talk about something that I do whenever I'm going to do a match or something of that nature. So when I want to put the bipod on, all I do, it's just single hand manipulation. I rock it on and I can use my thumb to hit over that lever. And now I've got a bipod reattached. So if you're looking at another accessory to add to your inventory, especially on your DMR or your bolt gun, check out an American Defense Manufacturing QD. It's gonna save you in the end. Mic check, mic check.
Mic check.
Okay, so Ben's gonna run out. We're at 580.
580.
What are we dialed at?
3.7 on the gun.
And this is 175 grain M110 LR.
Gonna hold a 1/2 mil left for wind.
Yeah.
See if we can connect. You know, my biggest concern with AR-10s is that they beat themselves apart.
Yeah.
They just, that's what they do. They just beat themselves apart.
Okay, so, I mean, we had the same issue though. Remember with the LMT? It didn't even, we couldn't even get it going. It was every 5th round would just destroy it.
Destroy it, yeah.
I mean, so far this thing has done.
Good, yeah.
Yeah, it's been reliable so far, so. All right. Impact.
Off the right. Off the left.
Impact.
Yeah, wind is picking up.
It smacks that steel so hard.
Low.
Nice. Is it easy to stay glass? That was impact.
Yeah, easy to stay on glass, easy to see splash. I'm a 16 magnification. I don't need all that magnification, but I have it on there.
Do you prefer holding or dialing, or what's your preference?
One target, I'm gonna dial. Multiple targets, I usually just hold. That could be wrong. Like, I'm not an expert gas gun shooter. I think most people are trending towards just dialing for everything.
Yeah.
Which is fine. It's a little slower. You hear people using like point max blank or blank max point or whatever it is, which is just
blank,
like a general hold out to a certain distance,
Right.
depending on your target size. But I'm usually going to, if it's one target, I'm going to dial. Multiple targets, I'm going to hold. There it is.
That was off. Oh, haha, that was not off. Real quick tip. If you dial, once you're done, make sure you go back to 0. That's something I've made a mistake in many times, especially if you're shooting a competition and you're like, why is it so high? And you realize you were dialed for something before, so make sure you always put it back to 0. It's
Imperative.
learn from our pain.
Yeah. God.
All right, guys, so hopefully you got something out of this video, and I hope that you could use it for, if you're thinking about getting a Sabre 10, or, you know, you were able to use something. I hope it was of service to you, and it really does mean a lot to me that you guys are a part of this community, and I'm just honored to be a part of it myself. And so for the encouraging word, I've actually been, in my personal devotion, been reading through James, and I'm actually in James chapter 4, and we talked about this on the podcast on Spotify, the Hatchet Cast podcast, but I think it's a good thing to bring up now, because what I want to talk about, and I have Ed here with me who is running the camera, is that I feel like a lot of people are looking for purpose, and they're looking for something that's tangible, that has weight, that actually means something in a society today where you're told that you don't really mean that much, and you're just an accident. And in fact, the entire universe is an accident, and your truth is my truth, and you know, there is no concrete truth. It's whatever, and you're just a meat suit walking around. Like, I think a lot of people are going through a really hard depression because they feel like they lack any purpose. And so what James chapter 4 has really done for me is to kind of list out the fact that you are special, that you were designed for a specific thing. And so this is James chapter 4, verse 13 is where I'll start, and I'll just go ahead and read it now. Come now, you who say, today or tomorrow we will go into such and such a town and spend a year there and trade and make a profit. Yet you do not know what tomorrow will bring. What is your life? For you are a mist that appears for a little time and then vanishes. Instead, you ought to say, if it is the Lord's will, we will live and do this or that. As it is, you boast in your arrogance. All such boasting is evil. So whoever knows the right thing to do and fails to do it, for him it is sin. And you know, it's fascinating, is it's like, I have, you know, my whole life you were told, hey, you should be thinking about your retirement and thinking about all these things, and you plan all these vacations that you got going. And those things are good. Don't get me wrong. Like, you should be responsible and take care of your family and things of that nature, making sure that you're thinking ahead. However, what I think James is talking about is putting all of your emphasis on tomorrow, like it's going to be a guarantee that it will be there, right? Yeah. And so when you take all of your emphasis and energy and focus and focus on retirement and things 20 years down the road and these investments and that investment, and you lose focus on what really matters. And that what really matters is the reason you were designed in the first place. Like, the Bible says that God designed us wonderfully, right? He made every single one of us with a purpose and a job that he specifically created you for. He created me for a job and Ed for a job. And when we lose focus on that, and we chase after things to fulfill ourselves according to what the world says should be fulfilling, you end up usually feeling like I'm empty. But then you feel like, why do I feel like I'm lacking purpose? It's because we're distracted focusing on things that aren't really going to matter. It says here, you are a mist that appears for a little time and then you vanish. Like, we might not be promised tomorrow. So you spend all your time, focusing on something that's going to happen 10, 20 years from now, and then tomorrow you pass away and it's your time, and what was all that time spent for, right?
And a lot of times we're looking for approval from a world that crucified Christ. Yeah. And we're searching for things that don't matter in the long run. And unfortunately, as I'm sure lots of people have experience with death, there's a woman from my church passed away this past week, and I was talking with another close friend of ours who has a very strong faith, and he was mentioning this very verse about you're here just for a little while, and it's really very it puts things into perspective, and you can get lost in work so easily. Yes. You can be lost in trying to make more money and lose sight of what is most important, which is oftentimes what's right in front of you. Yeah. Your children, your wife, your relationship, things that I was listening to First Corinthians earlier, and he was saying all of these things will be burned up. These things are not important. The true test of what you have done will be those things that are not burned up. Yeah, dude.
You bring up when we're made for a purpose as parents, our first mission set is our family. And I am 100% guilty of this, where I have been so busy, right, or focus on things, and my daughter comes up and, hey, will you play with me? And I was like, oh, okay, maybe later, or not right now, or Dad's busy. I'm trying to work, and then one day I'll just look back, and I'm already having it now, and she's 9 or turning 9, and I'm like, what happened?
How many times are you scrolling and your kid comes up to you and she just wants your attention?
Yeah.
And I have this thing where I think that what I'm doing is important.
Yeah.
And it's so twisted because I look at her and all she wants is to spend time with me.
Yeah.
My 10-year-old, and I just try to keep in mind, even when I am doing important work or whatever else, I keep in mind all that stuff's going to be gone. Yeah. Once that job is done, nobody cares about. There's a saying, your job, if you died, would have you replaced by next week. The only people that really matter, that really care about what you do and how you spend your time is your family. And I think I feel guilty about myself so many times when my children have come up to me and asked me to spend time with them. They're not asking me to mow the lawn or do chores. They're asking me they just want my time and attention.
Yeah, and dude, it's also like you said, like my wife. Like, I think that's the other thing is, like, I get frustrated because she's has all these things and wants to hang out, and I'm like, but she just wants to spend time. It goes back to, what am I doing with my time? I'm trying to work on things that are for tomorrow, and I lose the moments in the now. And before you know it, those times will be gone. Like, yeah. I can't remember. My wife sent me a thing where she was like, we are living in the shortest period and chapter of our kids' lives. A majority of the time that we'll know them is when they're adults. Yeah. It's just this small little time that we get them when they're kids, and it's there's a, man, when I'm really in fascinated with the near-death experience stuff, but like, I think I've talked about it before on other episodes, but there's been multiple people, whenever they go to heaven and they see it looks amazing, they'll see a crowd of people, like a welcoming party, and they actually just call it the welcoming party. And what's fascinating is sometimes it'll be family members and friends, but other times it will be a lot of people that have no relation to each other than the fact they all know the person that's coming, right? Yeah. And the one thing that's fascinating is they were all people that had a hand in bringing that person to where they're at now, at the gates of heaven, because they either took them to church or they talked to them or prayed for them. And it's like, those are the things that last forever. One day we're going to stand before the Lord in a place that's eternal. And you got to think about this. The rewards and the things that we do in this life, we have, 80 years, even now, probably like 30, 40 years, if we're lucky, to dictate what our eternity would be like. And I'm not talking about like whether you go to heaven or hell. I'm talking about, as Christians, when I was not walking with the Lord, I was terrified of hell. Like, I was terrified, like, oh man, I just don't want to go there. And now hell's not even on my radar. I'm just thinking about how much can I do for the Lord, because I want His approval. I want that reward one day. I want to be able to see my kids forever, dude. I want to see my wife forever, and my friends and all of the people here in this community. I want to hang out and see you forever, and it's going to be the most epic time. And that is the mission set that James is talking about. Don't worry about what's going on in this world. Don't worry about the things that are so finite, getting so busy and overtask saturated where you lose sight of what's right in front of your face and the people that are put there. There's times where people are like, I was talking to a mutual friend of ours, and he was just so frustrated because he doesn't like the job that he's in. And he feels like God's not using him because of what his job entails. Yeah. And I'm like, but dude, you meet people every day. You meet new people every day. Yeah. And each new person is an opportunity to be able to fulfill the purpose that God made you for, which is spreading the gospel and bringing hope to people who are hurting. And like you were saying, the first people that we should be bringing that hope to is our own family.
My mom, so like so many Christians that I know, I fell away from the church for a long time, and my mom was praying for me constantly. Yeah. And I was so arrogant. And I think that one of the things when you see conversations in public about anything sensitive, be it faith or politics, it's not uncommon to run into somebody that's arrogant, that just has this sense of moral or intellectual superiority. And like, that was me. Yeah. Like, I was so arrogant. And my mom was praying for me the whole time. And I've come to really believe in the power of prayer. And I always, how many times does it in the New Testament in particular talk about boasting? Yeah, I was in my faith. I was boasting because, oh, look, I'm so smart. I have, look at where I am now in my faith. And I'm just like, we were talking about prayer the other day, and it hit me. I was like, I believe in the power of prayer. My mom was praying for me. I don't think that I'm where I am today. I don't think it has anything to do with me. I think it had to do with my might have something to do with me. But my mom was. My mom passed away this past year from cancer, and she came and met my pastor before she passed away, and she thanked my pastor, and she said, "I've been praying for this for so long." Wow. for Edward to come to back to his faith, and don't underestimate the power of prayer. I mean, not that you do, obviously, but like, I'm just, as general advice, I mean, like, prayer I think is this world that we as Christians tend to overlook. I think, if you're crawling into bed at night and you just say a little prayer, give thanks, whatever. I mean, I think that's not bad, but I don't think that that's the blessing of prayer that God intended for us. I think the more you are
in that relationship with Jesus Christ through prayer, the more, you know, that you realize you don't have to worry about things in the future. It is finished. We're paid in full. You know, one of the things I've been praying for is to leave my worries and anxieties at the foot of the cross.
Yeah.
Because it is finished. It's done. None of this stuff really matters.
Yeah.
And I think that we lose sight of that every day. You know, we worry about, you know, if you're self-employed, you worry about paying bills, you worry about this and you worry about that. And it's that anxiety. We forget that we're a vapor and it's done. Everything's finished. It's good.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's what's fascinating is that, like, how many times I look back when God has just taken care of me, and it was to nothing that I could do or did that it worked out, you know, that way. And so God will take care of us. And it says, you know, as it is you boast in your arrogance, all such boasting is evil. And also, whoever knows the right thing to do and fails to do it, for him it is sin. And I've had that so many times in my life where I knew it was the right opportunity to tell someone about the Lord, or knew it was the right time to, someone's going through a hard time. I was like, you know, it's kind of inconvenient and I don't want to go. And it's like, when I fail to do those things, it's a sin. And so acting upon what the Lord puts on your heart, because maybe you're the only person in that moment that can reach that other person or can help that person that's going through a hard time. And he's like, I'm calling on you. This is your chance. And you're like, you know.
Like the Ethiopian that Philip baptizes, and he asks if he knows what he's reading. He said, how can I know if no one tells me?
Yeah, right. Yeah, and so if you are, you know, kind of going to the power of prayer that you were talking about, Ed, if there's anybody out there that is going through a hard time or you need prayer, please comment your prayer requests in this video or send me an email at team@barrelandhatchet.com. If you don't know who God is, I'm telling you, don't listen to what the world says. You were designed so special. You were designed for such a purpose that is so epic that only you can do it. And God loves you so much and wants to have a relationship with you. And it's awesome to have all of you in this community. But let us all train to be the eternal asset. My name is Eric, and I'll see you on the next one.